My name is Lamyu Maria Bo. I'm a professor in the Department of English, Comparative Literature, and Linguistics. My submission is for English 307, Advanced College Composition. It is a required course for all English majors, and the examples that I'm going to be showing today are examples of uses of Padlet in teaching literary analysis. My examples are both from spring 2021, and they are both about content engagement. When I teach literary analysis, one of the hardest things to get through to students, especially English majors who think that they already know how to write, is that they need to slow down to do better at making observations that lead them to genuine interpretations, because only then will they be able to build a literary argument. One of the ways I do this is I present them with a very short poem, such as this one on the screen, Gwendolyn Brooks' We Real Cool. A very short poem, but a lot going on in terms of poetic devices for the reader to look at. Now, what I did is I showed students two different Padlet pages. I divided students into groups, and I told them in groups they had to fill in these three columns. The first column is observations, where they just notice what's happening in the poem, including things like short choppy sentences, short stanzas, repetition, enjambment, but then they also have to make interpretations. So they have to think about what the rhyme in the poem is doing, or what the short sentences are there for. So you've noticed there's rebellious diction. What does it do? Only then can they go to the third step, which is build an argument about the poem and what the poem means. What this does is it forces students to see that there is a process to the writing, to analysis and to literary thinking. You don't just jump from here are the things you see in a poem into making an argument about it. You have to have the middle step of interpretation if you're going to come up with an argument that's actually substantial. This middle part is the step that students often miss. When I put it on the screen like this and make them work in groups to make it happen, they actually give the middle part some thought. And then when they get to the arguments, they start to see, oh, like the observations need to connect to an interpretation before you get to an argument that you can use as a thesis. This is what we do early on in the semester, just to get people used to the idea of literary analysis and the steps that it requires. Each group, there were 7 groups in this case, came up with their own argument. After they come up with their arguments later in the semester, I use this tool again through Padlet, and I tell them to come up with 3 layers of an argument. Now that they've figured out how to do observation, interpretation, and argument, I tell them that there are better arguments and worse ones. The worst ones are the easy answers that you can get to immediately. I named them these fun names of the Padawan level argument, the Jedi Master argument, and the Yoda level argument. What I asked them to do in their groups then is to come up with their easiest argument first, but then complicate it, make it more difficult to make it a master level argument, and then to push it even farther to come up with a Yoda level argument. What this does for a lot of students is help them to see that they don't actually realize that there's different layers of thinking that go into making an argument more complicated. As you can see with group 1, they started realizing that they're kind of stuck at a Padawan level argument that is honestly more like an observation than it is like a thesis. Then they have to struggle to come up with the other 2 categories because they've already been named for them by this chart. And what this does is it allowed students who were all meeting online in Zoom to work on the same web page, because Padlet allows students to do so. It's like a Google document where everyone can join in. It also just visualized for these students what mental processes are supposed to be happening. It's not enough simply to stop at an early level observation. Instead, a Yoda level argument, when done right, should be much longer. And by being able to see their classmates work, they are able to start teaching each other and learning from each other as to what the writing process should look like.